to present the I Touch the Future Award.
Thank you, Dr. Stevens. Good evening, everyone. Last night was our high school graduation. It was an extremely exciting night, and this evening will be no different with the I Touch the Future Awards. The I Touch the Future Awards have been developed to recognize former employees and Board of Education members of the Nazareth Area School District. All individuals that have at one time been employed in the district and or a member of the Board of Education are eligible for the recognition under this award. Each year, the Office of the Superintendent will solicit nominations for the award. Individuals interested in nominating a potential recipient shall submit to the Office of the Superintendent a letter not to exceed 500 words in length. The following are a few examples of why an individual shall be considered. Involved in activities that result in significant enrichment of the educational experience of students. Inspire and encourage students of the Nazareth Area School District to demonstrate creativity and innovation, and demonstrate activities that are significant reinforcement of the mission and goals of the Nazareth Area School District. So with that, I'd like to ask Melissa Whitman to come forward. She is going to read for us her nomination of our first recipient this year, and also ask Barbara Dietrich to come forward.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa Whitman, and I recommended Barbara Dietrich. I worked with Barbara back in when I first started in the district, and she was a technology specialist with me, so I'm going to read a letter about her. I was fortunate to work with Barb in my first years in the district. After I became a technology specialist at Bushkill, and she became one for Lower Nazareth, we worked hand in hand in the area of technology that, at the time, was very up and coming. She was both a mentor and a friend during a time when we were trying to figure out what was working, what was not working. Since she has retired from the district, Barb has continued to be a mentor to me and a cheerleader from the sidelines as I engage in different technology projects. Aside from my personal connection, Barb has continued to be involved in the Nazareth Area School District as an alumnus and through the Moravian Historical Society. Barb graduated from Nazareth and works with her class to promote the Nazareth Area School District and donations in different clubs and district activities. She is also part of the Joyce Black Scholarship Committee that selects an NASD senior majoring in education to be a recipient of the scholarship. She belongs to the Bethlehem chapter of the AAUW, American Association of University Women, that assists with the history book section of their annual book fair. She continues to work with Nazareth graduates that are striving to go into elementary education and college through this effort. Barb also works closely with the Moravian Historical Society, which collaborates with the NASD K-12 to bring the rich Moravian history to our students. She is involved and has been through the years in the colonial days at the intermediate school, even at times dressing up as a Moravian and wearing the traditional garb to teach students about colonial trades. Overall, Barb Dietrich has dedicated her life to the Nazareth Area School District as a former graduate, teacher, and today. She is the epitome of what we hope all of our Nazareth pride will continue in former students and teachers. Let's go.
I'd like to thank the board, the administration, and my daughter Melissa for recognizing me with this honor, and for my friends coming tonight to support me as well. I am especially honored to be nominated by such a talented, dedicated, motivated, energetic teacher like Melissa. So thank you very much. When I got the letter informing me about this honor, I kind of did a quick walk down memory lane because it's been a while. I realized I've always loved learning, and that's what led me to teaching. I think I knew from little on that I wanted to teach. One of my first memories was as a 3-year-old, probably around 3, being in Sunday school and having my teacher tell us about Moses using a flannel board. And if any of you don't remember flannel boards, I'll tell you about them later. But I was just mesmerized. It was wonderful. Then I got to kindergarten, and from kindergarten through my elementary school years, I would go to school during the day and come home and immediately play school. And I was the very strict teacher, and my youngest brother was the problem student. So I immediately knew how to deal with those kinds of kids. As Melissa mentioned, I had 13 years as a student in the district, and then 35 years teaching here. So 48 out of my 50 years have been spent. All right. Have been spent in the Nazareth School District, and I loved every minute of it. I graduated with the class of 1966, which was the greatest class, or maybe the grooviest class, and we still have an amazing class, right, Kathy?
We do.
We
yes.
do. We had fun learning in school, especially in senior high. We just had teachers who made learning fun, and they were very personable, and they were great years, and so I always knew it's something that I wanted to do. It's interesting because I was sharing with Kathy and with Dr. Riker some of the stunts that I pulled growing up. I was always considered a shy, quiet little girl, but I could instigate things in the background and never get caught. So I always appreciated those kinds of kids in my classroom as well, because I understood them. That was me. In 1970, a very strong and supportive principal, Mrs. Beryl Brock, hired me to teach in a 4-room schoolhouse, the Hecktown building, down in Hecktown. It was a country school, kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade, but we operated it in a very non-traditional manner. We somewhat did some non-graded kinds of things there. I found out, teaching kindergarten for 3 years there, that I had students coming who could read in kindergarten, probably at a 1st, maybe even at a 2nd grade level. I had other students come who could not spell or write their first name, and I had students come who could not even tell me what their last name was. So those children who could read went to 1st grade and read, and other 1st grade students who needed more readiness, rhyming and letter recognition, came and worked with me. So we operated that building for those 3 years at least in somewhat of a non-graded type of situation. And that led us in 1973 to the opening of Lower Nazareth Elementary School, which was in itself pretty innovative for that time. We considered it a modified open concept design, and Mr. Butts would know what I'm talking about there also. And we used techniques that were very, very different for that time period, and we loved it. We were kind of the flower children of that era. I'm looking at Mrs. Stewart. We were just eager to try new things and be very innovative. And so if I mention things like teaching stations and tote trays, and Jody's looking at me too. She's a student from Lower Nazareth. Teaching stations and tote trays and whistle pillows and modules and pod A and B and C. Those were things that we utilized as part of what we did in instruction and working with the kids. We practiced team teaching. We had special area teachers in a block scheduling so that we could have team planning times together. We developed thematic interdisciplinary units. We had homogeneous grouping in math and reading, and even our little 1st grade kids took their tote trays and would go to their groups for reading and for math. We switched classes with those children. I was a 1st grade teacher and would have a reading group, and the next year I became a 2nd grade teacher and had those same children back for reading. I think that's called looping now. But we did that back in the 70s, and it was very successful. We did peer coaching. We created learning centers. We used listening centers. We developed learning contracts with students and used large group instruction. So, and Mr. Matson would remember that as well. So anyway, I taught at Lower Nazareth for the bulk of my career, first and second grade, and then I became the teacher of the gifted support, and finally the technology coordinator for Lower Nazareth School. And Mr. Yulsis, Queen Bee loved technology, but only when the printers worked. Just, you know that. And actually, it was teaching the gifted support students, working with them, and being the technology coordinator that really always kept me learning and kept it fresh for me. And I appreciated all of those years, everything that I've done. At Lower Nazareth, we had wonderful students, very eager students. We had cooperative parents there as well. And just one quick story, and then I promise I'll sit down. I remember having a student, a little boy in second grade, whose mother passed away in the fall from cancer, and he was the oldest of 3 boys. And his father came in the spring for a parent-teacher conference. And I told him how well his son was doing, and I congratulated him on being just a wonderful dad, you know, to this little boy, and what a wonderful job he was doing. And he said, "But I need to let you know that it's not just me, it's you as well." He said, "We share our children with you." And that was it just struck me. That's something that stayed with me for many, many years. As teachers, we teach those children, and as parents, they parent them, but in essence, we're sharing our students with every parent that we interact with. And, you know, that's a huge responsibility, but it's also a huge privilege. So anyway, we had great kids. We had supportive administrators, principals, wonderful parents, and we had a wonderful relationship with our fellow teachers, and to the point that most of my best friends, including one sitting on the school board and one sitting over here, have been my best friends from the time that we started teaching, and will always be my best friends. So I am continuing to learn. I'm attending classes at Reagan Theological Seminary. I'm continuing to teach, but right now I have some very difficult students because they're all adults. That's not fun. That's right. But again, I thank you all for this recognition. I realize that it's called I Touched the Future, but I would just ask that we take that ED off, because I'm hoping that in what I do, I'm continuing to touch the present and hope to continue to touch the future as well. So thank you.
So Barbara, on behalf of the Nazareth Area School District and Board of Education, I'd like to present you with this box.
Wonderful.
And I'll give you this too.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Congratulations. And I will say Barbara's a former math teacher. Class of 1966 does not equate to age 50. But this evening you can be as young as you want to be. Okay? And speaking of class of 66, the next person I'd like to bring up is Kathy Heller, who is also a member of the class of 1966. And the recipient of her nomination, Maury Heller. So Kathy and Maury, if you would please come up.
Go ahead, you're moving faster than I am. That's beautiful.
Good evening. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Maury Heller and why I thought he would be a good candidate nominee for I Touch the Future. Maury was a single parent from 1978 to August 7, 1993. His children frequently remarked that their dad gave them the gift of time, which meant more to them than any monetary gift that would have been given. For David, a 1987 Nazareth area high school grad, his dad walked with him on the railroad beds in areas surrounding Nazareth and the vicinity. They constructed an HO layout and weekly attended NASME meetings. These endeavors led David to the career of being a conductor and railroad engineer on the Grand Marquis Railroad system in Scottsville, Michigan. His daughter Marlia, a 1989 graduate of Nazareth area high school, shared music endeavors with her dad. They were members of the Rosetto Chieftains, Marlia playing the bugle while her dad played the drums. She encouraged her dad to play tennis and ski. Maury, feeling the importance to spend time with her and be a lifetime learner, agreed to try out his skills with skiing and playing tennis. Little did Maury know how these sports would impact his future. On August 7, 1993, he married a Schaefer kindergarten teacher formerly known as Miss Keck. Needless to say, he became actively involved in educational programs in the Nazareth area school district. He frequently came to her class and spoke to the children about the history of transportation in the Lehigh Valley, Nazareth, and surrounding communities. These discussions always included a hands-on portable train layout. Annually, Maury participated as a reader to celebrate Read Across America. During Career Awareness Week, he participated as a control system analyst from Hoffman LaRoche, Vitamins and Chemicals, bringing in balances, Mettler balances, in which the students did hands-on scientific experiments. Annually, Maury served as a judge for the Schaefer's National Geographic Geography Week. In September 1998, former board member Thomas Mayer asked Maury to join the Nazareth Area School Board directors. He was appointed to fill the position of a board member who resigned. Maury represented our district as CIT board member from 1998 to 2013, holding the offices of president and treasurer of CIT for 1 year and 2-year terms respectively. Currently, he is serving on the CIT Advisory Board and the Nazareth Area School District Comprehensive Planning Committee. He annually encouraged CIT students to participate in Skills USA. While at CIT, he attended the awards evening of the students and their business partners and the National Technical Honor Society banquets. On August 17, 2000, he achieved his private pilot's license, allowing him to participate in AOPA's Young Eagles events. He was awarded a Young Eagles cap when he proudly flew his 50th child, ranging from 8 to 18 years of age, in our Cessna 150. At Schaefer Elementary School from 2000 to 2005, he was our kindergarten presenter for Grandparents' Day. Together with the grandparents, the students read The Big Book of Flight, co-authored and illustrated by their kindergarten teacher and Maury. Students and grandparents were challenged to use tangrams to construct a jet design. Athletically, as a Nazareth Area School District Board of Director, Maury supported the construction of the NAMS natatorium and the installation of the original artificial turf in our football stadium. Since the year 2012, Maury and his spouse have been matching the proceeds from the Nazareth Area Blue Eagle Education Day, Nazareth Day tennis tournaments, and from 2014 to present, a masquerade tournament. These tournaments have been earmarked by the Foundation for the Future of Tennis in the Nazareth Area School District. Currently, the foundation tournaments have netted over $12,000. Maury and his wife had agreed to partially fund the renovated Nazareth Area School District tennis court signage. Maury commented that he felt that this was an investment to touch those lives who are benefiting from this lifetime sport, keeping one's body physically fit and mentally alert for the present and the future, as it is important to be a productive member of society. As a member of the Kiwanis Club of the Nazareth area, he was honored for his presidency and service to the youth of the world by receiving the Hickson Fellowship Award in 2015. The Rotary Foundation Rotary International awarded Maury a Paul Harris Fellow in appreciation of his tangible and significant assistance given to promote friendly relations among peoples of the world. As one can see, Maury has dedicated his dedicated service of parenting and his active involvement in the Nazareth area school district and his community is deserving of the I Touch the Future Award.
Wow, I'm impressed. I did all that. Dr. Riker, I'll try to keep this to a few short words.
As long as you don't speak as long as Kathy.
Yeah, that's it.
That's an old joke that goes with
Yeah.
How about it?
When it was suggested that I apply for the unfinished term of Biff Standard, one of our beloved coaches, my first response was, I'm not cut out for that kind of thing. But I thought about those teachers, and we all could name some, those special ones that went the second mile with me, and without their efforts, I certainly wouldn't be where I am. So I said yes. I received the appointment, and at first I did a lot of listening and a lot of watching because this was all new to me. School district is something like a business, but it's not like a business. It's a whole lot different educating people than it is turning out widgets in a factory. And we had a wonderful board that really took that into account. And I have some wonderful memories too. A lot of good times that we had. There were times that those chairs were comfortable, but there were times when they got a little warm. But I still have a lot of good memories. Of course, then there was the night that the football team came to share the joy of their successful season, and at my suggestion, we shook hands with every member of the football team. I didn't know there were that many people on a football team. But CIT was my favorite activity. I just loved to be with those kids because they're kids they're moving in the direction of being a technician like I was. I loved being an electronic technician because you always had a manual in your hand and you always were learning something new. It never got boring. There was always challenge. And that's the way a life should be. And when I talk to teenagers today, I still advise, and if you have teenagers in your life, please advise them, get a good education because that's where it's all at. If you've got a good education, you can make changes in your life. You have choices. And there's not too much worse than being in a job that you hate and having to go to a job that you don't like every day, day in and day out. So get a good education and drive that home to the teenagers in your lives. And you will do them the same kind of favor that those before us did for us, and thank goodness for them. Thank you very much for the privilege of serving our community on the school board, and thank you for the wonderful job that our board is still doing. Trying to keep taxes down and trying to provide good education is a fine line, and sometimes you wonder where it is. Thank you so much.
So Maury, once again, on behalf of...
That's the goes it leaves me.
I know.
Oh,
Nazareth Area
was I
School
supposed
District
to
and Board of Education, I'd like to present you with this.
Wow,
Tokens of our
that's great.
appreciation.
The eagle.
And I'll give Kathy the black box.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you very much.
I believe Mr. Sillenperry, and potential guest, will be recognizing our third recipient. So Mr. Sillenperry. And if Mr. Alan Kratzer should come up, please.
I know you did. Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Riker and school board members. That was kind of like old home week. I have a whistle in my house. It's recovered from Lower Nazareth. The Hecktown School was my cousin Todd's school. Lower Nazareth was not built yet when we were here. My parents thought it best to send me to Catholic school under the tutelage of the nuns. So I didn't have that. And I mentioned Todd because Todd, my cousin, and I graduated from Nazareth in 1984. Biff Standard was our trainer. I'm kind of going off the cuff here. Anytime he got hurt, and you'll remember, he would just, that is a contusion, just wrap it up. You could have a concussion and you got smelling salts 2 or 3 times a game, it didn't matter. He'd wave them underneath us and send us back out a lot. That might explain a lot of stuff.
Yeah. It does for me too.
Yeah. Now I have a reason to tell my wife why. Mrs. Brock, I used to stack firewood for her. It's just ironic tonight. So I won't ramble on about it. I might. So I did nominate Mr. Kratzer. My cousin and I are 2 weeks apart, graduates of Nazareth, class of 1984. Excuse me, and I got to thinking and talking with Todd over the Christmas break. As you get older, you reminisce a bit. And I started to think about the teachers that impacted us. We are both teachers. Todd will finish his 30th or 31st year at the Slanco School District. I just finished my 29th year. And I work a lot with Dave Petrushka, who's here. Definitely much younger than I am. I'm, let's see, 66 was a good year, makes me about 35. 1966. But Dave and I talk a lot, and he has spoken well of you. Aris is your friend. Kenny Werkheiser, another Nazareth graduate, works in the high school, is a shop teacher, technology teacher. DJ Erdy, another young man who graduated from the Nazareth School District, is back here. So I'll read what I wrote and what I solicited from the other fellows. We would like to recommend Alan Kratzer for the I Touch the Future Award. See, these are called progressive lenses, not bifocals. Mr. Alan Kratzer graduated from the Nazareth Area High School in 1976. He retired from Nazareth in 2018, having influenced many, including my cousin Todd, the industrial arts teacher at the Slanco Area School District, myself, a special education teacher here at Nazareth, Kenny Werkheiser, an industrial arts teacher here at Nazareth, Damian DJ Erdy, an industrial arts teacher here at Nazareth, and Dave Petrushka, an industrial arts teacher here at Nazareth, all alumni. The statement, I touch the future I teach, is perhaps cliche now, but it rings true. This group of alumni stretches from the class of 1984, Todd and I, to the class of 2010. I can say without reservation that Mr. Kratzer touched the future. Some quotes. In 1981, Mr. Kratzer was my 10th grade homeroom teacher. Over the next 3 years, Al became a friend, a mentor, and I took as many industrial arts classes as I could. I also joined the stage crew, mainly because he was the advisor. I remember talking with him often about my future, but also about being a teenager in general. His mentorship was the reason I chose to attend Millersville, also your alma mater. This is my cousin Todd. I majored in what was then called industrial arts. When I was hired for my first full-time job in 1990, I sent Al a postcard and I thanked him for making a difference. Fast forward, and it's almost 30 years later. My own retirement is in sight. I have thoroughly enjoyed my career as a technology education teacher, and I mostly have Al Kratzer to thank for that. That's from my cousin Todd, who can't be here because today's their last day at Slanco, which is about 2.5 hours from here. I wrote this. I recall being a sophomore in 1981, and there were 4 young ladies in our wood shop, and at the time that was considered odd. But what struck me and has never left me was Al Kratzer treated them the same. That stuck with me, and now I have 2 daughters of my own, and they know how to work a circular saw, but I don't let them. They can't run the chainsaw, though. That bothers me. They should. Another quote, Mr. Kratzer was involved in many activities while here at Nazareth. He was both a student and then later a faculty member. He wore many hats. He helped many students with all kinds of things over the years. He helped them with things ranging from financial issues to deaths in the family. He also gave them advice about post-secondary education and a career. I'm thankful for his mentorship. When I was a student, and subsequently later as a teacher, and had him as a peer, I couldn't be more grateful. That's from DJ Erdy, Damien, DJ Erdy. Next one is from Kenny Werkheiser. While I didn't know Al while I was an undergraduate, I began teaching in Nazareth in 1999. Al served as a mentor from day one. He always put the students' interests first. On any given day, students would just come and visit him. They would share what happened the night before. They would look to him for advice. Al always managed to find time to lend an ear and offer a suggestion. He encouraged to walk the straight line, to take the high road, and he always said what he meant. He made a quote that Kenny remembers that said, "Words are like arrows. Once they're released from the bow, they cannot be recalled." That's from Kenny. Last one here is from Dave. I first had Mr. Kratzer for Tech Ed back in 2006, like it's a long time ago, 2006. When it was closer to my graduation time, I truly didn't have a solid plan for what I wanted to do after high school. But without the mentorship of Mr. Alan Kratzer, I can honestly say I'm not sure where I'd be right now in life. Through his teaching and his guidance, I have a very successful career. I'm incredibly happy. And I'm newly married. You should have put that in here. I'm very happy and I'm very proud. So in summation, here are 5 grown men who have in some way been impacted by Mr. Alan Kratzer. All of us touch the future. We hope to do half as good a job as Al did with us, and now we'll do with the next generation. So with respect, we humbly nominated Mr. Alan Kratzer.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much. I really didn't even know what this award was. I got the letter in the mail. And I did a little bit of thinking and, reminiscing and all that. And I guess I have to go back to and thank God for convincing Mr. Chappelle and Mr. Cobley and the school board to hire me 39 years ago, because I was not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I was in the shed. But they did. They hired me, and I'm grateful to John Roanoke, who was my mentor in high school. He was my high school teacher and football coach, and I remember vividly to this day, he was a tough person, but he was an honest person. He was a good person. But we had always scrimmaged on the football team. We would go up to Pottsville, which was all the way up in the coal region area, and we always had our scrimmage, our first football scrimmage there, and that was to test your resolve, because that field was intimidating. It was in between 2 big brick factories, and the players that came out, they had scruffy beards and everything, and they just seemed older than we were. And after that scrimmage, I was in the locker room, and my dad told me this later, that Mr. Roanoke confronted my dad and told him that he wanted him to send me to Millersville to be a teacher. So at that point, I had no clue what I was going to do, but he planted the seed, and that's what I did. So I'm thankful for that. I'm very thankful to the district, because through the district, me being hired and all, I met my wife Sarah. Okay, working here for this many years afforded me the ability to raise and educate our children, Jess, John, and Jim. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful for working with awesome department mates, colleagues, and I'm very thankful for being able to share what I learned and discovered along the way with our awesome students, because that's what it's all about. Okay, learning what passing on what you know, what you find out. And of course, retirement. I greatly appreciate that as well. So, to say the least, the district has done me very well, and I was glad to serve the district. I was proud to serve the district. I guess there's 2 pieces of advice that I kind of live by that was given to me early on. One was by my uncle, who was a Nazareth graduate, and he was a superintendent of the school district in New York. And he asked me what I received on my first evaluation, and I happily reported that I got all 20s. So under the old Debbie system, you got all 20s. That was a good evaluation. So he said, well, that's great. He said, but don't be fooled into thinking that there's no room for improvement. So he challenged me. He said that every year, he said, you should review what you do and how you do it and try to improve upon one thing. So I tried to do that every year. And then the other piece of advice came from my wife, Sarah, who she said very on in our relationship, she said, you know, you ought to treat your students the way you would want your children's teachers to treat them. So I really lived by that. And I don't know, I guess those two pieces of advice is kind of what carried me through. But I'm really, really appreciative of everything. It went by really, really fast. And I really appreciate it. I really do. I appreciate the award, appreciate the nomination, and I thank you very much.
So once again, on behalf of the Board of Education
Thank
of the
you.
school district, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think for all three of our recipients this evening, it's wonderful for you to be here this evening and realize that you've touched the lives of many people. And if anything, they will always remember the three of you as very special people. So thank you for being here this evening. Your names have been added to our I Touch the Future plaque on the wall and will be there forever. And I wish you much health and happiness and success as you move forward in your lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you.